here we are, just about 3 weeks, actually 3 weeks exactly today from midterms.
That's right.
What's your prediction?
Well, first of all, it's very exciting. Second of all, I think we're going to do really well. And I don't want to make predictions. I know that my poll numbers are terrific, although if you watch certain cable stations, they try and make them look less than they are. But we have great poll numbers. We have tremendous turnout at these rallies, thousands and thousands of people, more than we can hold. In every case, I mean, there's no case where that doesn't happen. There's enthusiasm like we had at, in the last election, 2016, which was quite a spectacular day and evening. I think we have a lot of enthusiasm. I keep hearing about the enthusiasm, the blue wave, but I think we have tremendous enthusiasm. I think Justice Kavanaugh, the way he was treated, he's an outstanding human being, an outstanding man of great accomplishment, and the way those Democrat senators treated him was horrible. Was horrible by any standard.
Were you shocked
The
at
leaking,
that?
the lying, the disgusting things they were saying to him, the false accusations that were made. The third one, this lightweight Avianti bringing up a person using gangbangs and everything else. I mean, the stuff that was said, and this man didn't even know what they were talking about. It was a disgrace to our country. And I'll tell you what, since that, we've been energized anyway. But we're more energized since Justice Kavanaugh. And now he is Justice Kavanaugh. We're proud of it, too. He's going to be a great one. And I really think that had an impact. But even before that, we had tremendous energy. So I think we're going to do well. Now, who knows? I mean,
but a lot of that energy
history
is for
says
you,
the opposite. You know
right?
that.
No, but a lot of that energy is for you. So when you go and there's tens of thousands of people showing up in one of these stadiums, they're coming to see you. How do you translate that into excitement for the candidates?
So I've had people come up to me and say, sir, I will never vote in the midterms because you don't like Congress. Actually, I like the Republicans in Congress. They have worked hard. We don't really have a majority. If you look, I mean, we have a majority by a vote. I always joke, if somebody had a cold, we no longer have. If they have a cold, we don't have a majority anymore. So I say, go out and vote. We need more Republicans, and we will win everything. We're getting the wall. We've already started building it. We're getting everything. But we are winning on so many different fronts. But we do need more Republicans. So history says, and this is why you asked the question, that whoever's president always seems to lose the midterm. But nobody had an economy like we have. We have the greatest, nobody reports better than you on that. We have the greatest economy that we've ever had. And numbers just came out today about job openings and everything else. I mean, it's incredible, record numbers. So there's never been a president with this. Yes.
Because your critics on the left would say, oh, no, that's just a result of President Obama's policies finally taking effect. What do you say to that?
Years later. If the opposition got into office instead of me, they're going to put more rules and regulations in. They were going to do things with taxes that would have been a disaster, raise taxes. They were all going to raise taxes. We were going to do many other things. So we had 4.2 last month, last quarter. And everybody said that's impossible because the most it can go is 2 and, very slowly, but it would never be up to that number. We had 4.2. Had the opposition gotten in, you would be at minus 4.2. You would be so low, you would have job numbers that would be so bad. You would have companies leaving this country, which they were flowing out of the country. Now they're flowing into the country. They're all wanting to be back in the United States, in America. And whenever I hear that, I say, isn't that sad that they can get away with it? That's the opposition. And they say, well, he helped. He didn't even help. We had the slowest recovery in history, or I guess since the Depression, since the Great Depression. And we were heading down. Take a look at the early numbers, like the early numbers or the late numbers for him. We were heading down 1% GDP. We were going down, and we were going down fast. So when I hear that, and when professionals hear that, they laugh, even professionals from the other side. We opened it up, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, that's, look, the economic accomplishments are significant. And a lot to be proud of, and I think people are feeling better about things. That said, there's a lot of division right now.
Yes.
And you now have people on the left almost calling for more of it. I mean, Hillary Clinton saying that we can't be civil. The left cannot be civil right now until we, take back effectively the government. Now, fairly or unfairly,
Yeah.
you as the President of the United States have a lot of responsibility in terms of trying to restore that civility.
It's true. That's true.
How do you do it?
Well, you know, it's got a big setback with Justice Kavanaugh. #1 at Yale, #1 at Yale Law School, just like this person. And when you heard the horrible things said, you had to become somewhat aggressive, let's say. But Hillary's a very dishonest person. If you look at the things she says, I mean, they're so dishonest. And she was dishonest during the entire campaign, whether it was 33,000 emails that were deleted that so far nothing has happened with, which is very disappointing from the standpoint of this Justice Department. Very, very disappointing, I will tell you. But you look at all of the tremendous dishonesty, and it's got to be cleared up. We're going to get along. I think the economy is going to clear a lot of things up when people are really getting the jobs they want. But we have a tremendous, powerful base, the Republican Party. And they have to know that going out for the midterms is very important. It's almost like going out for the 2020 election that's coming up in the not-too-distant future. Isn't that incredible that we're already talking about that? But there's tremendous enthusiasm for that, tremendous. And I really think, again, there's tremendous enthusiasm for the midterms. We'll see. We'll see. If the enthusiasm's there, which it should be, it really should be, because they'll take away your tax cuts. They'll put rules, regulations. You'll start losing jobs. This would be a terrible thing for the country if that happened. But we'll see what happens. I think we're going to do very well.
And the economy could restore civility.
I really think the economy is going to bring people together because people are doing better now. African American unemployment, the best ever. Asian American, Hispanic American, women, everything, every category. I mean, whether you look at median income, whether you look at employment or unemployment, no matter what chart you're looking at, it's either ever or 50 or 60 years. The best numbers. It's probably the best economy we've ever had.
So you mentioned women. Let me ask you about that because women, a lot of women are effectively the CFOs, right, of their family. They're paying the bills and they're keeping the trains running on time with the family. And they want financial prosperity. They want security.
Right.
Things that you're offering.
That's what I'm about.
If you look at the poll numbers, they're not liking you. So how do you overcome that right now?
Well, #1, I had worse poll numbers when I went into the last election, and you saw how well I did with women. I mean, if you looked at my poll numbers going into 2016, you would have said, there's not a woman in the country that's going to vote for me. And I did phenomenal with women. I did. In fact, that was one of the reasons, probably the reason I won in a true sense. Now, I also did better with Hispanics than they predicted. I did better with African Americans than they predicted. I guess I did better with the men. Stay with me. I don't know why. But with the women, they want security and they want financial security too. Look at 401ks. So let's say we have a really bad time in 3 weeks from now. Your 401ks are going to go down tremendously. People are going to lose wealth. If they don't go out and vote, then they have themselves to blame because they'll lose wealth, tremendous amount. I built up $11.7 trillion in wealth. You report on it. And if you look at China, by the way, they're down about $25 trillion in the last 5-6 months since I started going into what I have to do, which is straightening out the unfair balances. I mean, it's very unfair.
What is the end game there with China?
To make a deal or to not make a deal.
What would that deal be? I mean, what would that look like?
Look, right now, I've put tariffs on $250 billion worth of products, right? Nobody's feeling that. There's no inflation or anything in this country. Everyone will say, oh, there's going to be, but there's no, I mean, the inflation's very low.
Oh, Jay Powell might think there's a little
my biggest
inflation.
threat is the Fed, because the Fed is raising rates too fast, and it's independent, so I don't speak to him, but I'm not happy with what he's doing because it's going too fast, because you looked at the last inflation numbers, they're very low.
But you put him there. I mean, you think about Janet Yellen, and she was so dovish.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I'm not blaming anybody. I put him there. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but I put him there.
What if he gets it wrong?
I put a couple of other people there that I'm not so happy with, too. But for the most part, I'm very happy with people. Excuse me?
Well, if he gets it wrong and he misses...
Look, he's being extremely conservative. Let me use a nice term. He's being extremely conservative. The problem is we are just having record numbers. you know, when they try and compare what I'm doing with Obama, Obama was working off 0 interest rates. I'm working off real interest rates, almost normalized interest rates. That's a big difference, and my numbers are much better. But you take a look. You can't compare zero. Give me 0 interest rates right now, and you take a look at our numbers. It'd be the greatest economy in the history of the world. Nobody would be able to compete with it. We're paying a lot of interest. Yeah. And I think we're paying too much, to be honest with you, but it was so strong. And he's doing it because the economy is so good, because the economy is so strong. So we'll see how that all works out. I'm not happy with it.
If he gets it wrong, would he be out of a job? I mean, if he starts hiking rates at a time when we really don't have that much inflation.
For another 4 years, 5 years. So, look, I am not happy with what he's doing. I will tell you that. Because inflation, and I fully get the whole thing, the Federal Reserve, I get it as well as any president who's ever been here. I get it really well. But right now, that inflation's not here. If we start to see it, then you start to go and you do what he's doing. But in the meantime, I'd like to pay off debt. I'd like to do other things and pay interest. Well,
we got a lot of it.
We do, and we're going to start reducing costs now that we took care of our military. We had to take care of our military, but we're going to start. You'll see that very soon. We're going to start reducing costs. We have such fat in the government. But I wanted to take care of our military. You have to understand that Democrats have programs that are a total waste of money. But in order to get the military, $700 billion and $716 billion, I had to do it because President Obama starved the military. He didn't give them raises. He didn't give them anything. I gave them a 10% pay increase. They haven't had it in a decade. We gave them an increase. That's a big thing. I had to do it, not that anybody's wanting to, although I did because I love the military, law enforcement, the military. I gave them a raise. But I'm also building brand new planes, all made in America. I'm building brand new ships. We're building missiles and rockets, and we're fixing our nuclear, and we're going to be in tip-top shape. In order to get $700 billion and $716 billion 2 years, I had to give the Democrats some stuff that I would never give to anybody. So they're very negative on the military, and they're very negative on law enforcement and the border, and I don't see how they win elections that way.